By the end of this video, you will learn more about homeopathy and how it can benefit you in a survivalist or emergency situation. Trust. It's really something that we take for granted and don't spend a lot of time thinking about. But have you ever thought about how much trust goes into your ability to live a quality life? When you're hungry, you trust that your garden or local farmer or grocer will provide you with a selection of foods. When it's freezing cold outside, you trust that the utilities or your stash of wood will supply you with the energy you need to keep your home warm. When you need to hydrate and clean up, you trust that the water supply or your well will provide you with plenty of safe water. Food, fuel, and shelter, the very thought of suddenly losing these brings fear to any good person. But many of you are prepared for challenging times should there be a disaster. The most prepared among you have carefully set aside food, storage, water, and other necessities to support yourselves and families should the unexpected happen. You may have your food or your shelter, you've got your fuel. One crucial factor remains, however, your medicine. You may think you have your medicine, but in reality, you may not. Let me give you a snapshot of the U.S. healthcare system today in a time of relative plenty. Did you know that the U.S. hospitals face a shortage of saline fluid due to the rising cases of flu? Hospitals in the U.S. have the weakest admission rates in a decade. And healthcare companies are dropping thousands of doctors from their plans, and the U.S. government healthcare system is leaving many untreated. Many of you say, but I have taken steps to prepare my medicine cabinet. You may have stockpiled antibiotics. But did you know that these are becoming increasingly worthless as antibiotic-resistant superbugs are on the rise? They have left the hospital, folks, and are being commonly found in the U.S. home. Actually, experts report that the rise in such bugs can erase a century of medical advances because antibiotics simply cannot touch many of these diseases. Many of you may be stockpiling your own prescription drugs, skipping a dose here and there to save a month's worth of drugs to get you through any crisis. This might not only be dangerous in and of itself, but it's also founded by the hope that a true crisis would only last 1 month. When has a real crisis ever been that short? And then there's the concern about stale dates. My goal today isn't to instill fear, but to inspire and empower you through another way. That way is homeopathy. Did you know that the FDA regulates at least 2 homeopathic medicines for the treatment of hemorrhagic fever? And that nearly every communicable disease there is known to mankind has a homeopathic alternative that has been shown to prevent or treat that illness? So if you were vaccinated for a disease and you still got sick from that disease, there is a homeopathic remedy that has a history of efficacy for that illness. Homeopathy has you covered. Did you also know that if you were injured while chopping and stockpiling wood, there is a homeopathic remedy that is used in hospitals around the world for bleeding, to prevent infection, and quickly heal the wound? And if your child was stung by a bee, causing sudden swelling to the face, well, you get the idea. There's a homeopathic remedy for that too. Ask my son how we learned about this ourselves. It is for you, the smart, the prepared, the fiercely independent person, that I have developed my online guide, The Survivalist's Guide to Homeopathy. In my Survivalist Guide to Homeopathy, you will learn what homeopathy is at a basic level. So yes, newcomers will get basic homeopathic questions answered, and you will find a great value in this in-depth guide, even if you know a great deal about it. You will learn first aid, until hopefully professional help arrives, how to treat shock, epidemics, radiation, drug overdoses, and more. You will learn resources on dealing with special circumstances like pregnancy, and infants and the elderly. In order to determine the best course of action in any situation, you've got to use all the resources available to you, including your own common sense and reason. true expert advice, and the experience of those you trust. If you're feeling skeptical about what I'm saying in this video, good for you. You ultimately are responsible for you and your family's health, not I, and certainly not the biomedical agricultural industries who will try to sell you their wares and seduce you with innovative but often risky so-called solutions. All I ask is that you come with an open mind, ready to expand your knowledge. I'll let homeopathy do the rest. To learn more, click here and join me in the pursuit of health, preparedness, and independence.
Hello, my name is Joette Calabrese, and I want to thank you for watching my short video. Some of you may know me as the author of the Homeopathic Journal, found in Weston A. Price Foundation's Wise Traditions Quarterly Journal. Others will know me as a homeopathic consultant and educator. I've made homeopathy my life for close to 29 years. Today, I want to stimulate all of you to start thinking outside of the box. Most of you are of this mindset already, or you wouldn't be watching this. For those who are fairly new to homeopathy, stay with me. I promise you will not regret it. Let's begin. We all know that the health care practiced by your great-grandparents does not exist any longer. It has been replaced by a system that is letting you and me, and some might say worse of all of us down in conspiring to keep us from attaining genuine health. This is not another Bash the Doctors video. There is a place for good doctors, and many are recognizing how the system is letting all of us down. Too many common medications are not paths to cure, but a balancing act between a quick mitigation of symptoms versus a long list of possible contractable side effects. Long ago, I recognized that I didn't want any part of this for myself, and later, when I had a family, for them as well. Let me start by giving you a glimpse into the way I raised my children. They're all healthy adults now, so what I did has stood the test of time. When our middle son was 6 or 7, he was stung by a bee. We were sitting on the back deck of our house, and although he had been stung on an extremity, within 5 minutes his face was so swollen he was almost unrecognizable. Well, we live in the country, far from a hospital, and the speed at which the swelling of his face was pacing was alarming. But I had learned homeopathy and used the remedy that is specific for severe swellings and allergic reactions to bee stings. I quickly went to my homeopathy kit, opened the bottle, dropped a dose of the medicine into his mouth, and within minutes his shoulders dropped, and the crimson redness of his face started to take on a more normal hue. The swelling began to reduce. I continued giving him the remedy every few minutes, and the intensity of the problem continued to get under control. The whole event was over in short order. Had I not known, nor not had the right homeopathic remedy, I dare not think of what could have happened. Then there was the time my husband ate bad turkey, really bad turkey, that had set out for 2 days without refrigeration. I know, what was that turkey doing sitting out for so long? But that's another story. Nonetheless, he ate it, and the pain and weakness he experienced was distressing to all of us as we witnessed him falling deeper and deeper into illness. He later described it as going in and out of consciousness. That is until I gave him the remedy used for nearly 2 centuries for severe food poisoning. I administered it every few minutes, and not only is he alive today to tell the story, but he credits the remedy and his wife's know-how with his speedy recovery. It took only a few hours for the remedy to begin acting, and his recovery was within 24 hours. These are but 2 examples from my storybook. I have dozens of other examples, but lest you think that homeopathy is an oddball in the world of medicine, allow me to share a little information that the tide is turning. A large local hospital in my hometown of Buffalo, New York, routinely gives arnica montana to emergency room patients. Plastic surgeons for many years have been using arnica montana under the name Sinek to control swelling and internal bleeding. Indeed, homeopathy is the fastest growing medical science in the world. It's reported that 600 million people in the world use homeopathy today. And there's a very simple explanation. It's undeniable. Homeopathy works. So let's be clear what your goal is here. You want to be an informed insider with information that will take you and your mothering skills, your healing skills, to a higher level. You want to be able to drop your shoulders in an emergency because you know precisely what to do. You want to be free of drugs that cause side effects, and worse yet, long-term effects. This, my friends, is what I have to share with you today. It's called A Survivalist Guide to Homeopathy. The title says it all, a guide to surviving by using homeopathy. What I and my team have produced here is the culmination of years of writing and many more years of working with my colleagues, homeopaths, and doctors who use homeopathy from all around the world, consulting and accumulating information, coming from countries that still suffer illnesses that were once everywhere. I'm talking about malaria, dysentery, whooping cough, smallpox, wartime conditions, exposure to dangerous chemicals, and much more. I learned and recorded this precious information by personally interviewing my fellow homeopaths from Ireland, Pakistan, Iran, from studying under the greats of homeopathy from Israel, India, Holland, Great Britain, by scouring old and new homeopathic medical books from the US, South America, the Netherlands, Greece, Germany, even Cuba. I first hoped to gather this information for my own edification, for my and my family's use. I began collecting just after 9/11. You know, I live in New York, not too far from New York City. But once I recorded, organized, and collated much of this information, it became clear that I needed to teach this to others. So I formed a few groups in my hometown and taught them how to deal with 9/11 type emergencies using homeopathy. Then it was evident that this information was too precious to keep local. Much of what my team and I have compiled here took years to assemble, but then I added the frosting on the cake. I was awarded a fellowship for several weeks, 2 years in a row, in Calcutta at the Banerjee Homeopathic Research Foundation. This is when I added in what I gleaned from them, this already monumental undertaking. What I have now been able to do is to make the complex understandable. I have made this method bulletproof, easy to implement, with little to no need to understand the principles, rubrics, simillimum of classical homeopathy. Only what works for this or that condition, emergency or illness, problem, solution. My goal is to remove the fear of the unknown so that you can focus on what matters most, curing your family. Quite frankly, I can't imagine venturing out to my own backyard for a barbecue without the knowledge contained in just the first aid section of this guide. My big fat guide is nowhere else to be found. Not on the internet, not in homeopathic libraries, not in medical schools, and it is intended to give you peace of mind. It will set up a lifestyle that you will allow to stand apart. It will allow you to be the healer in your family, in your school community, in your church community. Consider moving one step further for more information so you can make an informed decision. Meanwhile, at least take advantage of my free gift that I offer by clicking on the button to continue reading so you can get a sneak peek into this big, fat guide that's our Survivalist Guide. Remember, folks, knowledge is power, but execution trumps knowledge.